Hello everybody, I hope you're doing well today. Most times when I make these videos I have a little sheet next to me with a couple of bullet points to riff on. This one I've got nothing, I'm just going to go for it from the heart. And that's because I've been a fan for a while of the boxer Oleksandr Usyk, or Oleksandr I should say. And I'm sure as many of you know, if you're sports followers, he won again last night. He beat Daniel Dubois, a young up-and-coming boxer, to remain the undisputed champion. And why I wanted to make this video is Usyk isn't just a great sportsman, but a great man. And I think it's very difficult in this day and age for us to really find people to look up to and admire for the right reasons. Now, I should be really clear, and I have tried to be clear on this channel, you should make a hero out of nobody, other than, a divine figure like Christ, or if you're Buddhist, Buddha or whatever. The point is, the reason is for that, is that man will always let you down, Men are imperfect, and if we do think someone out there is so amazing, you're setting yourself up for a fall down the line. And that's not me, being down about people. It's just a reality we're going to have to realize as men. No men are perfect. Some are better than others, sure, but none of them are perfect. And the first thing about Usyk to say is he's fully aware of this. So as great as he is in the ring, in a sport which is full of egos, he's managed to maintain his own poise and control, and he's clearly done that through faith. And why I find him so inspiring is, of course, he's a great boxer, incredible speed, agility, power, IQ. I mean, he's just really is the full package. And on top of that, he's European Orthodox, which makes me like him even more. But the thing about him, which is so great, is just you can see he's been on that real faith journey by how he holds himself. How he ensures not to get too ahead of himself. And one way that we see this is something that's so often not spoken about in this realm of men's and spiritual initiation. And that's humour. That's humour. He's a funny guy. He has fun. And I think that's so important. By all means, life is a serious business and you're going to have hard times. And sometimes it's brutal and you're going to go through things that are just horrid. And it might take years for you to work through them. But Usyk has always got that lightness about him, which always speaks to me. A spiritual man always has that lightness. When they're very deep and way down, they're on the journey. That's the precursor to the lightness, I often think. I've experienced that in my own life. I was at one time just like the weight of the world on my shoulders. Everything hurt. Everything was painful. I'm still a hypersensitive soul. It's the way I'm built. I'm the sort of person, if people are being noisy on the train, I'll hear it from the other garage, But that's all right. I'm at peace with it. I'm like a hypersensitive person. It's why I like peace and quiet and stillness and steadiness. But I definitely had to come to terms with that, because when the world's dominating you and you're sensitive to it, it's just a brutal place. And I personally would need to go into, something to take the sting of the world away. Alcohol could numb it, women, or even just isolating, not being near that endless noise and crassness of it all. But I think when you start to settle into yourself spiritually, that sensitivity, like most things when we come to our soul, our true self, can become a real power. It can become something that you really feel into the world. You feel the depth of its beauty, the intensity of its brightness. You even empathize with others on a deeper level. You love them in a way that you couldn't before, even if they are making a racket on the train, as crazy as it sounds. But my point is, that's the first thing I noticed about Usyk many years ago. I think it was when he fought Tony Bellew, which, God, years ago now. I realised this guy's really funny. He just has fun. He's got all this pressure on him, but he's just joking around. And he doesn't even speak English very well. Boxing fans will know, an Usyk quote is, they say, "How do you feel?" before a fight. And he says, "I'm very feel." Because he doesn't speak any English. People say, "I'm feel." And, you're excited for an Usyk fight. I'm very feel. And it's, again, another trait of his, which I think is really, really important for us to be mindful of in the modern world, where everything is so serious and so hard at times. But it gives you that levity, which I think is so important. But secondly to that, of course, is his faith. And he is someone who is open about his faith. But I think one thing about Usyk is he really means it. I'm not going to name names here, but I'm sure if you're a boxing fan, you'll know many of them will say, this win is for my Lord and Saviour Jesus Christ, or for Allah, or whatever, if they're Muslim. But then the second they've said that, they're effing, they're blinding, they're calling people out, being extremely crude. And all right, I get it, boxing's a game where you've got to wind your opposition up. I know some people have that strategy. But sometimes I think, look, 1 second ago you were just saying how you're devout, and now, all of this bile is coming out. And I'm not saying, again, the aim here isn't to be a perfect little bunny who never says a harsh word, but there is a certain line, there is a certain way of being, I think, that demands, that I think Usyk, again, symbolises. He's clearly very devout, he takes his faith very seriously, and he's very respectful towards other fighters, which is something which really speaks to me as well. With that, I think his faith clearly means that he can show immense courage. One thing about him, he just doesn't seem to fear men. Now, I'm not saying that we all can achieve that, and maybe he does in his own way. But whenever I've seen him in fights, he's always peaceful and steady when it comes to the stare downs in the ring. He never seems to be caught in nerves. He just seems to get into his flow and accept the outcome, whatever it will be. Which, again, I think is just such a great lesson for us. The idea isn't that we don't feel fear, it's that we are faithful within the fear, or still within the fear. That's what we're working towards. And again, it seems to me Usyk is a master in that domain. So don't think that you got to be like Usyk straight away. This could be a life's work for most of us, myself included. I was had lots of really brutal experiences growing up, very violent. So it really triggered my nervous system to be hyper aware for danger. And I'm still working through that now. Now it's 10 times better than it was, and I had to do a lot of work on it. But it still means it's not easy, and I can feel myself going. And you can imagine what that was like on a Friday night if you've got booze in your system. At least he's getting fights. But when you have to grow up and you're in the world of work, and there's some crazy boss you having there screaming and shouting, I could feel that part of me going, and it needs a lot of consciousness to manage it. Sometimes you need brothers and tribe to work through those things. And again, it's not about being perfect, but it's about being on that path. I think Usyk is a great ambassador for that. As well, I think another great thing about him, and I'm sure people have got opinions on this, I don't want to get involved in the politics, you're welcome to think whatever you like, but he is in the middle of a war at the moment, a contentious one. People have different views, that's fine. But my point is, look, he clearly, if it was your country, you would be holding a lot on your shoulders in terms of how your country's looking to you to give them something to get behind. They haven't got much to cheer about at home. It's a scary time for him, the future. But again, being able to bear that and hold that and represent that for his people, I think is, again, a really, really admirable thing. And finally, age. He's 38, 39, getting on, old for a boxer, still moving, still quick, which shows discipline, dedication, but most of all, as I say, devotion to his craft. Devotion always beats discipline. It's what I've been speaking about in the 7 steps that I've got coming up, free calls on Saturday, next Saturday, and the Saturday after that. So do sign up for those down below. There's only limited spaces. But devotion always beats discipline. Yet discipline is amazing. But let's be honest, how many of us can keep up discipline for 6 months? A month, It's hard, man. It's hard. You got to have something almost wrong with you if you can do that. Be like David Goggins, But personally, I tried the Goggins life for a while. It just kind of made me a bit ill, if I'm honest. It didn't really speak to me. You need devotion. And what's devotion? It's discipline times with love, And if you love something, you'll serve it. That's the idea of Christ, You'll bow before what you love, and it loves you so dearly, and it makes you devoted to it. That's what Usyk has. It's devotion, not discipline. Devotion will always last out discipline. Finally, on Usyk, he's a man who clearly loves his father. He's spoken a lot about his father, how his father's a very strict man, and he's very sad that he passed away, that he couldn't see what Oleksandr's achieved. And it does break your heart, these things. But again, what really speaks to me is how I speak about the 3 fathers. You have your earthly father. You've got to try and make peace with him if you can. You have your cultural father. That's your tradition. It could be your traditional religion, or it could be, your national traditions. And then you have God the Father, or if you're not a God person, life, being, existence, that which is beyond you. And Usyk has clearly gone to God the Father, and openly gone to God the Father. And he hasn't had a religious background himself, so he's clearly, found that path and found his divine father, which is now working through him. And he's just such a good example of someone who's done the work, but also holds himself in the right way. Yes, he's brilliant. Yes, he's courageous. Yes, he's brave. Yes, he's strong, but he's also humble. He's also funny. He's also got a lightness about him, and it really is a privilege. in an era where sport is increasingly sold out and cheapened, that we have someone who really does stand up for everything that's good about sport, about faith, about men, and someone we should emulate. He's a figure that will come up, I'm sure, when we speak about warriors in the 7-step path. So if you are interested in learning more about the 7 steps, that's the initiatory ritual work I am now doing, do come along to the free calls. All information is on the Substack, but do sign up quickly because spots are going. As I say, call on Saturday and the Saturday after. Other than that, do subscribe to this channel if you're new and enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.
You said in the press conference that you don't rank yourself among the all-time greats. Why?
I don't know. Because I think for me first is Jesus Christ. When you як возвышаешь,
Make higher.
when you make higher myself, God do it. Hey, listen, be careful, please. I don't know. I'm not best of the best, and